All right, you ready to dive into our favorite TV show?
I am ready to dive into the TV show.
Okay.
As I said before in the last one, it's like I'm pretty new to it, so you got to take it easy on me. I'm about maybe three-quarters of the way through the first season, so I'm picking up on it. It's new to me, but I'm loving it so far. I may mess up a name or two, but it's
Well, when did you first hear of a show called Beverly Hills 90210?
so when I first heard, I mean, I've definitely heard of it just like growing up, just being a
Okay.
kid. Like even
Yeah.
if I didn't exactly know what it was, like it was always referenced in like pop culture, right? You always heard about it coming up. Like I always had an assumption of like what it would be. And
Okay.
like what I know of it to be now is like a complete 180 from what I thought it would be coming up. And so I'm glad I was introduced to it. Like I actually started watching this show maybe a few weeks actually before the Beverly Hill, not the 90210 podcast that we did
Yeah.
about a month ago. I
Yeah.
lose track of time. I'm the worst reference when it comes to time, but
What made you give it a chance? And what was that assumption you had that it would be like?
well, just Beverly Hills, and then that area code 90210. I mean,
Yeah.
I like associated it to be like maybe like a version of like Clueless. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember that
Yeah.
show with Stacey Dash like back in the day, or
Yeah.
like I associated it with something like that, and I thought it would be like nothing of like substance,
Okay.
to be honest, right? Which I think
Yeah.
is just a general right assumption when you
Yeah.
hear Beverly Hills, when you hear 90210 and like everything that comes with it. And I am unfortunately I'm happy to be proven wrong so far.
So, what's the most recent episode you've seen?
So the episode I'm watching right now, it's I believe it's 10 or 11, maybe 10 or
Okay.
11. And Brenda is actually working at the crisis hotline and
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to identify a caller.
Yeah.
I literally just got to the point where she was able to identify who it actually was.
Okay.
And that's there's a little, confrontation there, and it's a story. It's a little, unfortunately that dynamic in that setting in like high school, unfortunately
Yeah.
that happens way too often, right?
Right.
So and I think that just kind of lends itself to like me being wrong. I am never too proud to admit when I'm wrong, but I think that's something that I don't care how old you are, I don't care when you went to high school or whatever. Like I think that's something at some point all of us can relate to, if it's not directly like someone we can touch has dealt with a situation like that. And you see
Right.
like a lot of tropes like within the show, even just as early as I'm into it, that
Mm-hmm.
are still, relative to today, which is cool.
So you have 10 seasons to get through, nearly 300 episodes. What is your plan for getting through it all in a timely manner?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like so my I don't know if we're allowed to talk other shows
Yeah,
here
go
this
for it.
at this one, but my favorite show of all time is Grey's Anatomy. So
So you're used to you're
yo,
used to
so
long shows. Goodness.
yeah, so and that may be breaking news. I don't think anyone outside of like my immediate circle knows that.
Yeah.
So that's breaking news exclusively to you. Grey's Anatomy is my all-time favorite show in the
Wow.
history of shows. And that's kind of how I started watching Beverly Hills 90210. So I'm
Okay.
friends with Rory Carmt. He's a director.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
And we were just kind of working out together one day, and I was just like, my trainer knows I watch knows I watch Grey's Anatomy, and so like me being a fighter, right, and professional athlete, when people hear that, they like start scratching their head, and then like it's whatever. So they'll
Yeah.
make jokes or whatever, and I was like, and I'm actually kind of lost right now because Grey's Anatomy was on a hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Rory was like, yo, you should actually check out this show. Like, I know some friends, they're doing like a podcast about it. Like, obviously, he knew
Right.
about it. He's a little
Yeah.
older, so he
Yeah.
knew about it and he told me about it. And I was like, you know what? I'll check it out. I'm literally scrolling through Netflix and scrolling through Hulu, when I have like my free time and I'm trying to find something. So I'm like, why not? Why not check out Beverly Hills 90210?
Yeah.
Like I knew what it was the
Right.
second he said it. I had just never
Taking the
watched it
time.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how often are you going to be watching so that you can get through the whole series?
So right now, like up until maybe earlier this week for the last
Mhm.
few, I haven't really had a lot of time. I fought like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So like the weeks leading up to that is like when, training and stuff dials up for me and I really don't even have the energy to watch.
Mhm.
Like the little time I did watch, it would be like as I'm getting into bed and I'm settling down
Mhm.
and then, I maybe get like 15 minutes in and then it
Oh,
takes me 2-3 days to watch one episode because I
wow.
got to go
That's
back.
so interesting.
Yeah. So it's really become like a filler, like in between
Hmm.
my free time. Like, so yeah, I mean, right now, these next few weeks, I'll have a little bit more time. So I'll be
Okay.
getting into it a little bit more, but just the way my schedule's set up, like I never know almost where I'm gonna be week to week,
Hmm.
and I gotta move and adjust and adapt with that. So I find the free time when I can.
So with 10 episodes in, which characters are you vibing with? Who are you not feeling? And what are your predictions for where couples are going to form and how things are going to go?
I think immediately my favorite character is Brandon. I mean,
Okay.
just simply because of like just his demeanor and how he approaches life. He's a very like go with the flow kind of person.
Hmm.
I think he's very wise for his age. I think he
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of myself a little bit, and that's
Hmm.
maybe why I feel like I identify with him a little bit.
Yeah.
There was another character who was introduced maybe 2 episodes ago, which I identify with in like kind of a not so good way.
Okay.
It's so the Mrs. Wash. I
Yeah.
don't Mrs. Wash and Mr. Wash. They
Yes.
went to high school with the guy, and this guy,
Yeah.
I forget his name.
It's
But he
okay.
was a photographer, the
Yeah.
artist, very successful career
Yeah.
person, and he's at the peak of like I guess self-actualization from like where they were in high school, right?
Right.
And like he pretty much has it all. And then now he's at a place to where he realizes that he has it all, but he doesn't. He's missing like one key thing, and that's that family
Mhm.
and that love like component. And like to be honest, like the way I live, like my lifestyle, and essentially as a fighter, I'm an artist. Like
Mhm.
fighters, artists, athletes, artists are pretty much synonymous with how we view ourselves and how we live our lives. And I'm like,
Mhm.
man, like I don't want to be that guy, but sometimes I'm like, man, I feel like I see myself becoming
Edging
that
up
guy,
that
like
way.
ending up
No.
that way. I'm like, oh no, but
So, are you stating for the record here that you are single and ready to mingle?
I am single. I
Okay.
am,
Maybe
I
not
am,
ready to mingle.
I'm open to
Okay.
it. It's weird. Like I'm single, but like I'm not irresponsible, right?
Gotcha.
So it's like I don't have a reason not to date. I'm open to dating, but
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like what dating has become in this day and age is like that may be a little too fast for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like I'm still healing and working through some stuff. And like,
Mm.
yeah, sure, why not? I'm single. I'm ready to mingle as long as we can be transparent, as
Yeah.
long as we can be honest and then, not rushing. I don't want to rush it.
Well, I asked because I don't know if you saw, but when you were on the Beverly Hills 90210 show podcast, these comments were coming in fast and furious about how good looking you are and that you were well spoken. And I think you won over a few hearts of fellow fans out there.
I must be the most clueless person ever. I mean, it was kind of like, so I don't know where you are. Where are you exactly? Where are you based?
I'm from New York, but right now I live in North Carolina.
Okay, so I like totally screwed up the whole time zone, the whole time zone thing. So like literally, I got a text message from Rory and he's like, hey, they're about to start the podcast.
Yeah.
And like I was like maybe 10-15 minutes away from like finishing my workout. I was like
Mm.
literally training. So I just literally dropped everything that I did. I'm drenched in sweat, towel down real quick, threw a fresh t-shirt on, and like just hopped on and just flew right into it because I was like, I thought I had another at least hour. And yeah, as you can see, math is not my strong suit. I could write you a book in a day,
Hey,
but like,
same.
but when it comes to the math and the numbers, I kind of get that, mixed up. But no, I had no idea. I didn't know that any of that was going on. I just
Yes.
knew that I just found this new show, that I've been watching this new show, and they wanted me to be on. So I was just like happy to be there.
Well, that's awesome because
Yeah.
now you have people to talk about the show with, and we have a new fan. And I really hope you take this as a compliment. But to me, you're like a unicorn in terms of being a fan of the show because
Mhm.
you're male and you're a person of color. And I
Mhm.
don't feel we have enough of that in the fandom. I'm sure they exist, but I don't know if they're necessarily the most outspoken about it. So how do you feel when people hear, or if you're going to share that, oh, I'm a dude that likes this teen drama, or I'm a dude who is watching these white kids go through high school and race is rarely discussed? Like, do these things enter your mind at all?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, as a black man,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I kind of touched on it earlier about, being an athlete and people thinking me watching the show as a fighter, like it's such a contrast. But just being a black man,
Mm-hmm.
you have to grow up guarded, right?
Yeah.
In a sort of way that like shows like that really that touch you kind of in that way. Like we're almost not even, traditionally allowed to view that kind of stuff.
Mm.
When I think about the stuff that I watched secondhand, right, growing up as a kid, the stuff that I watched my people watch.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much centered around, violence, drug
Mm.
culture, and unfortunately, it's because that's representative of like the environment that we lived in, and that's what we
Mm-hmm.
could relate to. And it's weird. Like I look at it, even like this show, or like me watching Grey's Anatomy, like my second favorite show that I watched before this one
Yeah.
is This Is Us.
Oh,
Like
you're
I
killing
I
me.
I love those. I guess most people would call them melodramatic TV
Yeah,
shows,
melodramas. Yeah.
but for me, and even Beverly Hills 90210, like it's a very educational experience, right? And
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, because like I never saw any of that growing up.
Mm.
That none of that behavior, none of the emotional substance, the family support that you see in Beverly Hills 90210 between the parents and the siblings, and like just
Mhm.
their relationship as a whole. Like I never saw that growing up, and so
Mm.
like I look at it and it kind of offers a guide, so to speak,
Yeah.
for how to interact and engage with people that I love and people that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also like sentimental and cathartic, because like watching it, I'm like I come to that realization, like what I experienced growing up, and like I've never really got to speak about my story growing up. Is
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most positive story, but I am grateful for what it taught me. But like realizing, like looking at my story and then watching these stories on television, it's like, man, it kind of makes me sad sometimes, because I'm like all of this is like foreign to me, and it shouldn't
Yeah.
be. So
Yeah.
it's educational, it's cathartic, it can be an outlet in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy it, and I'm open to it. Like I don't care what people say. I
Yeah.
get in a cage and I fight men
Yeah.
in front of thousands of people, on TV or whatever. Like I have nothing to prove. I have
Yeah.
nothing to prove. I have a cut on my face from my last fight a week and a half ago. I could probably use more of that in my life. I fight people every day. So
Well,
it's all about balance, right?
yeah, I did want to bring up your career because you're an MMA fighter. You just won. How did you get into this world, and what's the end goal?
Oh, how did I get into that world? So I guess that's just a matter of like, how far back do you want to go,
Hit
right?
me with whatever you want.
So I started wrestling and boxing when I was 12 years old. My stepdad put me into wrestling. We didn't necessarily, as I spoke about earlier, that environment, it wasn't the most healthy of
Okay.
environments.
Mhm.
He actually put me into wrestling as a punishment, and like, and then like, I just ended up being like naturally good at it. And so I wrestled from 12 all the way through college and boxed as well. And I ended up meeting someone who, in our sport, like if you think of the main boss sports, NFL or like NBA, for
Mhm.
instance, someone who is, as far as our sport is concerned, at one time was considered one of the greatest of all times. And this was just maybe a year or two ago, former world champion and all this. And he kind of steered me into the direction of MMA, as a
Wow.
mentor. And for a while, he was probably more than a mentor to me. And then, I'm very grateful for that. And I've just kind of took it and ran with it, so.
Wow.
And here I am now getting paid to do it. So it's
What is the goal? Is it to become in the top MMA fighter, or do you have a different picture in your head?
My goal is definitely to be a world champion.
Yeah.
I'm definitely set out to be the best in the world at what I do.
Hmm.
And also I want to use this as a platform more than anything to not only build myself beyond the sport,
Hmm.
but to impact others. Like I think about what wrestling and what fighting has brought me and offered me. I mean, at times growing up when I felt like I didn't have a family or I felt like I didn't have support, because I did it and it allowed an escape for a lot of that. I found family. I was able to build my own family structures through the sport, whether it was through coaches and training partners and stuff like that. So I definitely want to kind of use it as a community base to kind of touch people, but then, obviously build that brand and global recognition, and hopefully it all just can happen simultaneously as I grow. The more I grow in the sport, the more my reach will grow, and then the more my reach grow, the more my impact will grow, and everything just kind of trickles down from there.
That's awesome. That's really
Well, thank
cool.
you. I'm working on it, man. We
Yeah.
getting there. Some
Mhm.
days are harder than others.
So, you love Grays, you love This Is Us. Sticking in the teen genre, have you watched other teen dramas?
Oh yeah, growing up, like so for me, when I think about it, like so Beverly Hills 90210 came out in 1994.
No,
I think,
1990.
yeah, 1994. Oh, 90? Was it 90?
90, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, phew. I was I was born in 1994. I thought it came out the year I was born. That was like a connection I thought I had with the show, but
Sorry to burst your bubble.
no, sorry to burst my bubble, but so it came out in 1990. I was born in 1994. So I mean, if you think about it, thankful for the social media age, the
Yeah.
streaming age, I can really go back and pick up on it and watch it, and we can
Yeah.
sit here today and it bridges the gap correctly. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And for me at least, growing up, Degrassi was
Okay.
like I think that would be the best mirror to what Beverly Hills 90210 is. So maybe the generation before me, like our generation
Hmm.
had Degrassi that came on the
Yeah.
end. And like that was my favorite show, like growing up, the teen dramas and
Yeah.
the high school dynamic, and you watch them kind of grow, through
Yeah.
the years. And that was definitely one. Like I mean, if you want to talk about more, I guess, recent teen drama
Sure.
shows, I become recently more of a film guy. So
Okay.
like I would even like, man, I just feel like I'm telling you like all all of my intimate like secrets. These are the things that
It's
like
just the two of us. It's okay.
these are like the things that like when people who don't know me and then like they know me get to know me, they're like, what the like,
Who
like I'm
knew?
exposing. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I used to like watch Twilight and stuff. Like when that was like hot in like high
Yeah.
school, like Team Edward, Team Jacob. Like
Yeah.
my middle name was Edward. I didn't think it was cool until like Edward
That
came out on
happened.
Twilight. Like so, I mean, there's been a few. You know, I think those two are probably my most notable. With Degrassi being like
Yeah.
I used to say I wanted to go to Canada and go to that high school and you know all that stuff. So
Yeah. All right. I'm going to name a couple of shows. You say whether you've seen it, want to see it, or wouldn't watch it.
all right, fair enough.
Dawson's Creek.
Seen it. My
Yeah.
brother, my older brother and older sister was very into Dawson's Creek. The theme song. That's probably one of the iconic, I think, theme songs like with shows. I think that was right up there with like a Seventh Heaven, like their theme song. Like soon as you heard it, you just
You
like
knew.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the whole series or just certain episodes or bits and
I've
pieces?
seen a few episodes. I would say Dawson's Creek for me was just like one of those shows that was in the background as in my childhood growing up, and I would peek and watch it with either my older brother, my older sister, and my aunts would watch it, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't delve like into that show
Into
as
it.
much.
Okay. The OC.
The OC, I have not seen the OC. Hold on, no, the OC, that's not MTV, is it? No.
You might be thinking of Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach, that
which is
what I'm
the
thinking.
reality show.
Yeah, okay.
But that was inspired by the OC, and the OC has drawn comparisons to Beverly Hills 90210 because it's also about, you know, the rich lifestyle in California. And in Beverly Hills 90210, you're entering that world through Brenda and Brandon, who moved from Minnesota, and they're experiencing this world for the first time. And in the OC, your way in is this character named Ryan, who is from a less fortunate part of California, and he's taken in by this wealthy family, and has his eyes open, similar to the way that Brenda and Brandon do.
So now I want to see that. That is pretty much a direct parallel.
Yeah.
With my life. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's weird. I can only imagine he probably goes through an identity crisis. He's trying to figure out. So yeah, you're talking about like my upbringing. You know, like back home in St. Louis. Like I grew up pretty much like my great grandma, for the most part, raised us. That's where we spent a lot of time in like this community called Baden, and that's like one of the worst like areas you ever want to be in. But then I spent time there, and then I lived like with my parents in like North County, which is like pretty much lower middle class. We moved around a lot, like a lot. And then when I found wrestling, I ended up going, even though I lived in a different area, I ended up going to school like 45 minutes away because I was recruited. Yeah. I was recruited, you know, for middle school to go to this high school in West County, which West County was definitely a very well affluent area. And so I touched 3 different demographics almost daily. And so like that sounds very interesting to me.
That also sounds a little bit about like the show All American, which I haven't actually seen, but you know, I read about.
Yes. I recently watched that and pretty much spot on.
One Tree Hill.
One Tree Hill. I have not seen that. I know about it, but I haven't seen it much.
Okay. That one is more compared to Dawson's Creek. In the way that Dawson's Creek is about a small town and the teens growing up there and the connections. One Tree Hill is also set in a fictional small town and follows them through high school and beyond.
Okay.
Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl, man, my sister used to watch that. So not so much, I guess, the ones with like, because I obviously like when these shows came out, right? I'm probably like what, 10, 11.
Yeah.
So anything with girl in it, I was like,
no.
I was like, no, I wasn't in tune with my feminine side.
Now you are.
I wasn't in tune to my emotional feminine side. So I was like, you know, I had too much testosterone going on, trying to puberty. And so anything with girl in it, I was probably like, nah.
All right.
Unless it
Well,
had unless it had like Jennifer Aniston or something.
So are you a Friends fan then?
You know what? As a kid,
Yeah.
and I just had this conversation yesterday, actually, which is funny. As a kid, I was, yes, simply because like we didn't really have like cable when we were
Yeah.
growing up, and it would come on WB channel 11.
Yeah.
I believe Wednesdays, if I remember correctly. You get a new episode weekly, and like me, my brother, and my sister, we'd all get together and watch it. But
Yeah.
like watching it as an adult, not so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not to, bag on the
Yeah.
show or anything like
No,
that, but
there are
we
parts that didn't age well.
yeah, and I just think the lack of like representation, they're not only just within like African American culture. I mean, you want to talk about, you didn't see a lot of positive roles for like gay characters. You didn't see a lot of Mexican, I mean, like minorities just in
Right.
general. Is a very, very vanilla show. So like I have a hard time kind of watching it today. I think some of the characters were funny, but like as you said, it just really didn't age well.
Yeah. To bring it full circle, I think that's what's so remarkable about Beverly Hills 90210, because it can be rightfully criticized for sometimes being too white, and not representing all stripes of people. But when you rewatch the episodes now, 30 years later, they are holding up and the lessons still resonate. And you're a perfect example of that. You were born 4 years after the show started. You're watching it 31 years after the show started, and you're finding it to be applicable in meaningful ways to your own life.
Oh yeah, indeed. I think there's a lot of tropes and a lot of dynamics in there that I do relate with. I mean, there are some things to where like we talk about representation, like it's kind of a weird dynamic, and I think it was just a matter of like the time that the show was set in, to where like immediately from the first episode you see like the opening, and then you see African American characters, you see Mexican characters, you see some characters like, hey, maybe this guy may be a little queer or something, like you see it. Like I don't want to make assumptions because I wasn't there. I didn't film the TV show or anything like that, but you definitely see a lot of representation. You see what Vice Principal Clayton, one of the main people in power in the school, is an African American man. And then the Spanish teacher, Miss De La Roca, she's a Hispanic woman. And like that's cool, but amongst the student body that the show is centered around, you don't really, as of yet, I'm still early into the show, you don't really see those impact players or those impact characters are really diverse. So like the diversity seems, the show is surrounded by diversity, but at its core, you don't see it as much. And I think that was just the state of, just Hollywood and pop culture, at the time.
I think it's both a strength and a weakness. It's a weakness that it wasn't a diverse ensemble, but I guess the strength is that its storylines transcend a particular identity group, that there are storylines that apply to you regardless of what demographic you might fall into.
Yeah, for sure. Like even like the episode, was it Kelly's mom that had the alcohol issues, they did drugs and stuff like that. And so as I said earlier, it's like that's what growing up secondhand, that's what that was idolized. If I talk to any of like my uncles or older cousins, like they're gonna reference movies that were centered around drugs and gangbangers and all the other stuff. But then, hey, nobody thought that was going on in Beverly Hills inside a mansion. A housewife at that, a former model, was dealing with that too. And I mean, I just think that just speaks like about humanity, right? Like you kind of learn that lesson, growing up from a kid. It's like when you're a kid, when you're in high school, you look at the adults and you think they got it all figured out, or you look at someone that comes from a different place and it's so easy to pinpoint what they have that you don't really see the full picture. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, no matter how much money you make, no matter what color you are, no matter what school you went to, no matter where you work, you know, like we all have issues. And I think at the core of it, the show just really, really portrayed that also.
What really excites me about you, in addition to you being kind of this unicorn in the fandom, is that when you have a favorite show, a favorite book, movie, whatever, you've usually read it or seen it so many times that like nothing's really a surprise anymore because it's all ingrained in your head. And I sometimes wish that you can go back and experience something for the first time again and feel all those initial feelings. And it's why I like connecting with first-time viewers so much, because I get to relive the show through their eyes. So as you keep watching, I hope you'll keep in touch, and I want to know what your thoughts are, which couples you like, which storylines you hate. Keep me up to date because I would love to relive the show and experience it through you.
I have no problem with that. I will definitely reach out and let you know where I'm at and what I like, what I don't like, and just keep you in the loop. I appreciate you having me on to even talk about it. Like I said, you got the scoop. Everybody knows my secrets now. They know what I'm out here watching. I hope, you know, maybe this could be a good ploy. People can think I'm like all soft and emotional until I get in the cage and it's like who's
surprise.
Like,
well, David, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Maybe we can do this again. You know, maybe if I get into season 2, season 3, we can just keep it rolling. I love giving my insight, and I mean, you can kind of educate me and walk me through the show as well too.
I would love that, definitely. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.